Hey, I'm Joey Chiaramonte from Koyo, and you're watching Riot Vision.
So I'm glad to have you here today for Riot Vision, and let's just dive into the questions.
Sure.
You
cool.
good?
Oh yeah, I'm golden, and obviously appreciate you having me.
That's great. So I think it's your second time in Europe right now. Am I right?
Actually, third. We did our first time was with Silverstein, Comeback Kid, and Census Fail, and then we were back last summer with Fleshwater. We did like some headlining shows with them. So this is our third time, but you know, very different vibe. The Silverstein tour versus headlining with Fleshwater, just totally different type of shows, you know.
How's the tour so far?
It's awesome. We're actually kind of on the tail end. Tonight is the second to last night. I think we wrap tomorrow in Cologne, but it's been really cool. I mean, for us, like this has been an opportunity to play to a lot of people who have no idea who we are. You know, that's the kind of the motive when you take a tour like this. You want to play to people who don't know you. So, you know, it's been playing to a lot of people who literally do not know us every night, and that has its own challenges of just going up there and being yourself and doing your thing. But it's been a privilege to play to so many new people. It's been awesome.
You know what's really interesting is as Germans, because if the people know your music, they really got into your music, you know, because it's not our first language. We don't hear the words for sure. And even if there are like 10 people that listen to your music, it's like they really know your music. So
exactly. And the couple of people, like, you know, at each show, there will be a handful, you know, 5 to 10 people that do know it. So I'm extra appreciative of those people, you know, who took the time to learn it like that. It means a little extra. Anyone back home can learn the words and have an easy time, you know?
Yeah, and now there will be more people now, you know.
Of course, yeah. Or so we hope, you know, fingers crossed.
How would you describe your music style?
It's a good question. I'd say it's, best way to put it is it's, you know, emo and pop punk and alternative rock music that's inspired by hardcore music, you know? Like that's the scene we come from. Those are the shows we go to when we're back home, but we like writing more melodic music. So you kind of naturally fuse all of those things with one band.
I think a lot of people said like easycore is also a thing, but I'm not sure if it's like...
See, it's...
Right.
I'm very like... Whatever it is to you, that's cool. You know, like I don't like to put it in a box or tell people what it is or isn't. So if to some it's easycore, cool by me. You know, I'm not I take no offense, you know.
There was no offense for me too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've read that you are like childhood friends, the whole band.
Yeah, yes.
So since people get to know each other through kindergarten, school, etc., how was the Koyo squad formed?
So essentially we all, or not all of us, but most all of us have, known each other since we were like, I've known our bass player Spanos since I was 7 years old. You know, me and our guitar player Harold met in 7th grade in middle school. So we all knew each other very young. But I think I've known most of the band in its entirety since we were at least teenagers, like 15, 16 years old. And we all proceeded to start bands that didn't include one another and tour and travel and do the band thing just without one another. And we kind of had this little lapse in touring, respectively, a couple of years ago, where everyone was just a little less busy. So in that time, we figured, let's kind of get together because we're all, you know, best friends, and let's start a band that can play some shows at home when we're not on tour and stuff. And as it turned out, that band became a very busy touring band as these things go. But yeah, that's where it all started. It was just supposed to be like a for fun thing when we were home from tour with our other bands. I used to tour manage and do merch for the band Vane, so I was out with them all the time too. So it was like something to do in between, and before I knew it, it became like the only thing.
Since some of you are in different bands like Handman, Typecast, and Reign of Salvation, you probably can compare your experience there to Koyo. So does being childhood friends make the dynamic of Koyo special?
It definitely does. It definitely does. And the thing, I guess, that differs so much between the two is that, you know, we had to build all these bands from the ground up. You know, Hangman, Typecast, Reign of Salvation, Koyo. They all started with tours where we were sleeping on floors and making less than $100 a night, you know. But Koyo just had this, like, it was interesting because most everyone had toured before. So we'd all done the formative learning how to tour and, you know, become an adult doing that thing. And then Koyo just brings this bonus charm of, like, knowing each other better than anybody else into that dynamic. So it's like, it's almost like, it's almost as if we all went to college doing our, like, other bands, and then we graduated and we all got a job, and that job is Koyo, you know? It's like we all did the learning part as, like, younger men, and, you know, now we're doing it for real with this band. It's cool.
That's so
It's special.
Now we have to switch because let's talk about your debut album and the recording process.
Sure.
You decamped to a barn in rural New Jersey with the producer John Markson and spent 6 weeks digging into every detail of the record. How can we imagine this experience?
It was such a interesting and unique time in our lives because we'd never done something like that before, you know? Like, if you grow up being a kid in a band, you always hear about bands going to a studio for a month in a remote location and writing a record and all that. And we got most of that. Like, don't get me wrong, there were still, you know, fast food chains and, you know, it wasn't total nothingness. Like, there was plenty in the area we were in, but, you know, it was a literal barn with cows and chickens. And when I'd go outside, I'd see all the stars at night and stuff. And I think we wrote about half the record and change going into it. And I think finalizing the record, going through the process of picking which songs we want to keep, which parts we want to keep, reconstructing stuff, I think there's just some magic that came with the process of being at that spot and working with John that, like, sealed the deal for the record, that made it what it is, you know? Like, things that are almost hard to put into words, just workflow, environmental, atmosphere-related things that just, like, made the record what it is and made it, in my opinion, you know, the perfect expression of what we wanted to do with it.
So you worked almost the whole time there. What did you do in between? Like, it's always like waking up, doing work, going to sleep. Was it that kind of lifestyle?
It varied because also it wasn't, with drums excluded, which were basically done first, it wasn't a very, like, drums and bass then guitar then singing. It was John's process is a little all over the place. So some days I would sing, some days we'd do guitar, some days we'd do bass. And I want to say for the first half of it, I personally spent a lot of time, like, refining and writing more lyrics as we went. So, you know, if Harold or TJ was recording guitars, I would jump in my car, take a little drive into this town that was nearby, get a cup of coffee, sit down outside and just really try and dial in on the lyrics and whatnot. But it varied. Some days, you know, I got to sit on my laptop and play video games. It definitely wasn't all work all the time. And we would watch, you know, TV, movies and stuff in, like, the living room at night and just hang out, you know. One of the perks of being in a band with, like, your childhood best friends is you just kind of hang out when you're not doing the band stuff, you know.
That's so cool. It's like, you know, you can do it all together. It's just great.
Exactly. It's something we're very appreciative of, you know. So you said you doing, like, the lyrics thing. You went outside, go for a coffee and something like that. So your lyric writing is described as very introspective, very personal. How does the other guys deal with it? It's like you say, I'm out, guys, I'm doing my stuff, or how can we imagine this? Yeah, essentially that, you know, they're very understanding of my process is my process, and they're just kind of let me off the leash to go do my thing. It's a good way to put it, you know. Lyrically, I've always just tried to keep it as real as I can in the interest of, you know, the final product, the art, the quality of record. You know, it just means a lot to me to have the songs I'm singing about every night come from a authentic place, even if it's stuff that, like, feelings that pass, situations that pass, things that I right now, you know, before I go on stage tonight might not care about anymore. I cared about it at one point. So you can kind of like tap back into that feeling for just a second and, you know, catch that strong bit of emotion, even if it's only when you're performing an old song, you know, stuff like that was huge to me.
Would you describe that as like a creative experience or sometimes something that is hard for you?
It's definitely difficult at times, but a like extremely rewarding part of doing the band, and like just doing anything that provokes so much emotion and feeling and intensity. Like that's what it's all about to me. That's why I like doing the band, you know, among other reasons, but that's one of the best parts of it is being able to like creatively tap into that feeling, you know?
Like there's one song that has a special meaning for you, Life's a Pill, I think. What is it about?
Life's a Pill is about a family member of mine, unfortunately, passing away while I was on my first full U.S. tour. So back home, like in the States, like a full U.S. is a 30-day tour, you know, wherever you start and, you know, and you usually do about 3,000 something miles of travel in that time. It's a long process. It can be up to 40 days even. When I had done my first one, I was kind of under the expectation that there wouldn't be another because I was playing in a very small hardcore band. There were 14 of us driving around in a van. I didn't think I'd have the opportunity to do that again. It felt like almost like a vacation where I get to play shows, you know. And we were rounding the corner coming up to California. I'd never been to Southern California before. It just felt like something that would only happen once. And I kind of seized the moment, or at least that's how I presented it to people. It's like, you know, I'm gonna not go home for the services and stuff and stay out here on tour. You know, I'm broke. I don't have money to fly home. I made a million excuses within myself to basically not go deal with the trauma and the, you know, just the heartbreak of losing a family member, especially in such tragic circumstances. So, you know, the song is about that and also just developing a more mature relationship with tour as I got older, where when I was a younger person, it was an easy escape route. I could just bury whatever problems, bury real life problems, not be an adult. And Life's a Pill in a lot of ways is about learning from that mistake and making not only better decisions, but also having a more mature relationship with all things travel, touring, and doing this as a job, you know?
But I think a lot of people can relate to this because a lot of people go to like college or have their job. It's just, and maybe like 1,000 kilometers in, in Germany, not thousands, but like 200s.
Yeah.
And then something happens and they just can't just leave and let everything go. It's hard to make that decision.
Life kind of in the moment takes priority, and whether that's the right thing or wrong thing, I guess that's person to person. But for me, it felt like the right thing, but it probably was the wrong thing, you know?
So besides Life's a Pill, which song is the most important from your new album?
Good question. I genuinely feel like I could give a couple of answers for this, but the one I want to probably dial in on is Anthem, just because that song, I feel like I will feel the way I feel about that song forever. Like the rest of the record, like I said, you're catching a moment, you know, you're catching a fleeting feeling. I might not feel the same way I do about some of the lyrics I wrote 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Anthem, I feel like I will believe in every word of that song forever, because it's just a song about being grateful for where you came from and what that's done for you, and, you know, the community that we have back home. Like, that's stuff that's like made irreplaceable, like unmeasurable positive impacts on my life. So it's just that song I think is the most important, because it summarizes a feeling that I think we all as a band relate to.
There's one last question.
Sure.
As a band Koyo, or maybe as a band member of Koyo, what's your biggest goal for Koyo?
That's a good question. I definitely, like anybody playing music and doing art for a job, essentially, you know, I have, of course, aspirations of having that be my only thing and the thing that pays the bills, and, you know, you can just focus on that. I can only focus on Koyo, and that's what my life is. And in so many ways, my life already kind of is like that. But I think my biggest aspiration for it is not for it to be necessarily the biggest band ever, or no particular metric, you know, not to sell out rooms of this size or that size. Just want it to be as accessible to anyone who needs it as it can be, and, you know, to be able to facilitate that for as long as we possibly can. And, you know, because this is music presumably for literally speaking anybody, but it's like, you know, it's music for presumably younger people who are going through tough life stuff. And it's like, I remember a whole bunch of bands that meant a lot to me when I was a younger person going through life stuff, you know, to just be that for somebody for as long as we logically can, without overstaying our welcome, you know, without having it be shot. That's all I could ask for. That's the goal.
It's lovely to say. So, is there anything, your last message you want to leave for your fans?
Just a huge thank you for this whole couple years up to this point. You know, we haven't been a band all that long, but, you know, we put out our first debut full length on Pure Noise, Would You Miss It? And the first press of it sold out before the record came out, you know, like, got a whole bunch of like US Billboard charting stuff, just things I never would have conceived, on top of also just getting to travel the world. So just that comes from people listening. Like, we wouldn't have the ability to do anything we're doing if people didn't listen and support it. So just sincere thank you. It means the world to us.